So the series of talks for the year are called Being the Light. And today's specifically then is Being an Anchor. So if you know anything at all about boats, you know that there's a very important related piece of equipment that is an anchor. And it's required to stabilize the boat, keep it in position. And it's really necessary in turbulent waters or in a storm, because otherwise you can get bashed on the rocks. We often say that someone is an anchor, either in the community or in our families. And they're the ones that tend to help us to stay grounded in those turbulent times. And as we look around us, we seem to have a lot of turbulence, don't we, at the moment? Whether it's the coronavirus and the fear of infection that's beginning to sweep the world, or whether it's just the ongoing political turmoil in our own country. Many people are looking for guidance and support, or for people to model how to respond to these storms, these challenges on a daily basis. It could be said that they're really looking for an anchor, or they're really looking to find out how they can be an anchor for themselves and for others. And so they need teachers, they need models, they need us. They need us to step up to the plate, mixing my metaphors, but they need us to be anchors. And of course, what we do to transform the world or to help others affects us first and foremost. That energy starts in our own hearts and in our own energy fields and extends outward. And what we do to heal ourselves also then heals the world, as within, so without. Spiritual principle. And we've been talking now for several weeks about how to practically be the light in this year of 2020 of perfect vision. Realistically, we need to have a game plan on how to bring heaven on earth. Our heavenly light, our insight into this world of ours. It has to be an intention that we wake up to every day. It has to be almost the first thing that comes into our minds, with a simple and practical game plan then for the day. Or else, we all know it's not going to happen. You just get up and suddenly you're several hours into the day before you even stop to think. The road to metaphysical hell is also paved with good intentions, lacking follow-up or follow-through. And as an intentional spiritual community, we need to gather like this in order to align our intentions and energy for our individual good, for our collective good, and for the greater good of all. While remembering that we are not creating or manifesting something that has never existed before. We are simply bringing into consciousness something that has never existed in the collective consciousness as a reality in our 3D world. We've had glimpses of awakened consciousness on the planet, here and there, certain eras, certain individuals, but we have not had all of humanity awake to their true identity and anchoring the highest frequency of their being universally. That's not happened. And at a quantum level, heaven already exists upon the earth. Do we realize that? Do we get that? Heaven is in the cellular membrane or in the cellular beingness of all of this. There's a unified field there. And we are just not tuned in sufficiently yet to see it or to hold onto that frequency. But that is changing in each one of us. And at a collective level, the divine feminine is rising. You know, you hear that a lot. The divine feminine is rising. And it is rising in the hearts of each one of us, and it's inviting all to embody this new balanced energy, the divine feminine and masculine. As each one of us consciously does that, we anchor the energy on the planet for the good of all. But it requires letting go of two things: toxic masculinity, which has been the paradigm, of old power based on control thinking and manipulative behavior and responding. And we have to change that. We have to consciously look at that, how that lives in us, and decide to change it and to let go of it. It also requires letting go of toxic femininity, not playing weak or seductive to get what we want, or using the victim stance to avoid standing in our own true power. And it requires being in our hearts with an openness, a kindness, a compassion for all, no matter how they are behaving or showing up. Or we are simply going to continue the old paradigm. Nothing is going to change in the world because it isn't going to change in us. The first truth that we must wake up to is who we really are, the divine, each one of us in human flesh. And armed with that knowledge, we then assist others in discovering and remembering who they are. It's just like when you're on the plane and they say, in case of emergency, put your own mask on first and then help others to put their masks on. We have to stand in that place of knowing who we are in order to be able to help others to come to that knowing. Our light bulb gets lit up and turned on, and it becomes a lamp that radiates its light to show others who they are so that they can wake up. What we do for others, we do also then for the planet. See how that works? You don't need to attempt to change the planet. You just need to focus on changing yourself, and the planet follows your lead. It's a nice idea to want world peace, but the place to start is within ourselves, making sure peace resides there. That's how we accomplish world peace. Are we ready and willing to do what it takes to be peace and to forego our usual dramatic, emotional, upsetting responses and behaviors? I mean, are we really willing to make that change? Because that's what's going to come down to. What can we do on a daily basis to bring the heaven on earth that already resides in the background of our world and bring it into the foreground so that everyone can become aware of the truth of the universe and of our place and our purpose in the cosmos? You know, there are those nice lights back there. They're behind those white little drapes. We need to bring that light out into the open. And we can live our lives as divine co-creators, rooted in a space of divine feminine, heart-centered love and awareness. We can do that. The good news is that we don't have to do something different to heal the planet other than what we are doing already to heal ourselves. Isn't that good? Isn't that great news? Nobody's asking us, to be extraordinary. We can just do the ordinary with intention. But we must have a daily action plan, I believe, or else we will just be empathic sitting ducks for whatever shows up on the next news feed of the hour. We will be an emotional roller coaster ride each day, being yanked about by the latest headlines. But here's the thing. So take a deep breath. That roller coaster ride and the emotional charge we get from it is an addiction. I want you to take that in. We are getting a chemical high from it, and newsflash, We don't want to give it up, necessarily, even as we know we should and we must. We're addicted. We need a moment of honesty here. Don't believe me? Well, pay attention to how powerful you feel when you're going off in reaction to some breaking news, some headline, something somebody's done. From your most disliked public figure, entertainment figure, a neighbor, or your most disliked family member. There has to be a secondary gain or you wouldn't be hooked or reactive. The energized emotional response makes us feel good somehow. It's like, well, I'm doing something to get control of this. I'm not a sitting duck. But it's a fool's errand that is disturbing the peace of our souls and of the world at the same time. We're now adding to the chaos and the turbulence out there in the world. The world is not a better place because of our reactivity, is it? The question is, are we now willing to give that up? No more negative reactivity to Rachel, to Hannity, to CNN, to MSNBC, Fox News, whatever. No more negative posting on Facebook, with the realization that it isn't adding anything to the collective. That's the real test, isn't it? You might say, oh, I could stop watching anytime, but I just want to be informed because it is an election year after all. Okay, sure. Well, prove it. Give it up. And if you can't, then just acknowledge that you are addicted. Just say, you know, I would really like to do that, but I don't know how to do it. I keep telling myself every Sunday when I come here, I'm going to stop that. But I keep doing it. The call of heaven isn't yet as seductive for you as the call of the 3D world. And that's okay, if that's what's going on. But just be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves about that. We still haven't sort of unhooked ourselves from that process. Unity consciousness and oneness still isn't our primary value each day when we wake up. We still desire getting our hit in, our hit back, more than extending an opened and kind hand. Keep playing gently in the background. Today, I think we need an altar call in this country and in this service for all who are imprisoned in the shackles of the devilish fake news TV. Compared to the truth of who we are and the reality of the universe, it's all fake news, folks. We are giving up a piece of our souls with each piece of commentary we listen to and get upset about. Ask yourself a simple question. Is it good news? Does it lift you up? Then it isn't the truth. And it's not worth wasting our time on. Does it elevate our vibration and elevate the frequency of others and of the planet? Because if it doesn't elevate us, then it's bringing us down, and it's bringing the collective down. So all those who are ready to commit themselves to the Christ within and forsake their false selves are welcome to come on down to the altar. Are you willing to forsake the seduction of fake news and erroneous thinking for the guidance of the good news of your divine inner nature and truthful voice?
Praise the Lord!
Thank you. Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
Will you agree to teach only love and give up for Lent and beyond Lent starts Wednesday. The emotional sugar high of fake news and its emotional reactivity. All right. Will you renounce the seductive voices that want you to be in opposition with others rather than in union? They're not bad people. They may be extremely deluded or at best unconscious. And so are we when we are stuck in these reactions. So we can excuse them, but how are we going to excuse ourselves, and why should we? When we say we know better. Aren't we supposed to know better and be the teachers and the models?
Yes.
Thank you. So I have been using some of the old-time religion and religious language to make a point, and thank you for joining in. But seriously, are we willing to be put on the spot and have a come to Jesus moment in this election year of 2020? Except that it's not so much a come to Jesus moment as it is a come to the Christ within moment. The coming to Christ moment is this: it uses the law of polarity to effect change within, first for ourselves, and then without for the collective. As light bringers and light bearers on the planet, we can use this law of polarity as a tool or a modality to effect the change we want to see and be. Whenever we experience something negative, unfair, unjust, or see a negative headline, it doesn't mean we turn a blind eye and bury our heads in the sand. We don't avoid it, or we don't do a spiritual bypass. But it does mean we forego our usual ineffective emotional responsiveness. We take those negative experiences and we use them as flashing lights that are warning us not to respond in kind to what we've just experienced. To choose something new, to choose the polar opposite. Use the atrocity or the adversity or the outrageous behavior to practice anchoring a different reality, to call forth heaven on earth in that moment by our response. The feeling that you will have, if and when you do that, will be way better than a momentary sugar high. And it will be a deeply satisfying, grounding sense of power. We will stand in our power and completeness, the divine feminine and masculine working together. And by so doing, it is as if we are saying to the universe, okay, you say that heaven is here. Well, I'm saying to you, bring it forward right now. Show me, through my mind, through my heart, through my body, show me how I can anchor this heaven that you keep talking about. I'm willing to be a channel for this energy. I want to taste heaven on earth, what that feels like, and I'm willing to give up my usual response in order to experience something new. And that's the only way we're going to ever experience it, when we are willing to give up the old response. In so doing, we are like a spiritual Paul Revere, announcing that heaven is close and on its way. Heaven is coming. The end is nigh. The end of duality thinking. Because this is what it takes. What can we do on a daily basis? This is what you can do in discussion with other people when someone brings up an opposing spiritual opinion, political opinion, or a view that's different from yours, without silently seeming to agree with them. This tool, this modality, can help you feel good at the end of the day, knowing that you have caused the evolution of consciousness to move forward and that you have increased the frequency of the planet today. We can help humanity to see behind the curtain of conditioned reality that heaven is already here if we want to see it and if we're willing to do the hard work of choosing it, by ending our fight with reality and other people. We are joining a collective awareness and increasing it until a tipping point is reached and humanity comes together in unity consciousness. We are setting this as an intention for the world each day. So where there's fear, and you know what? All of that emotional reactivity about the TV stuff and all that, actually it's all fear. It's all our fear. That's all it is. When we feel that fear come up, we can stand in a place of courage instead. For myself, for my family, for the collective, and for the planet. Whenever there's suffering, I can anchor freedom in that moment for myself, for others, for the collective, and the planet. Where there's injustice, I can anchor in that moment, through my own feelings and intention, balance and equality. Where there's deception, I can anchor truth. Where there's disturbance and upheaval, I can be the peace that's required. I can call forth the peace of heaven. Where there's abuse or atrocity, I can anchor freedom and restoration. Where there's negativity, light. Where there's hell, heaven. Where there's hatred, love. Where there's unconsciousness, great opportunity to be conscious. And where there's separation and division, oneness and unity. This can be used in any and all circumstances in our lives. So when someone says to you, what do you think of so-and-so, candidate so-and-so, you can respond by saying, may he or she be blessed with all of the light that expands their consciousness and helps to transform reality into heaven on earth. May it be so.